All right, and we're good. Good evening, ma'am, and any others who decide to watch. My name is Cadet West. This is Cadet Zabeski, and this is our presentation for our final project in SE 370. So for our final project, we decided to do a prediction for the American League All-Star and the National League All-Star teams for 2021. In order to do that, we had to get data from the 2019 and the 2020 seasons. Specifically 2019, their teams, their all-star teams, national and American. As you know, 2020 was greatly affected by COVID. There were a lot of restrictions, game cancellations, things being moved around, just a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of complications in the 2020 season. So Cadet Sebesky will explain the 2019 teams.
Okay, ma'am. So basically what we did to to create the dashboard for the both American League and National League All-Star teams is we went online and scraped the official rosters. Once we had the teams scraped, we were able to input specific stats that we wanted to show that we thought represented what a good team is made of. So here we can see in these value boxes, the average team batting average for the 2019 American League All-Star team was about a 292. The on-base percentage was a 383. The slugging percentage was a 548, and the average number of home runs was 33, as well as our pitching ERA of 3.05. We were also able to find the hometowns for each of the players on the roster and map, so we could kind of see a trend of where all of the players come from. So majority of them obviously coming from the United States, a trend of them coming from the islands and Japan and Australia. Here is our official team roster. We were able to upload this onto here so we can see the entirety of the entire roster, as we have 16 pitchers in the starting lineup for the All-Star game, and here's all of their stats. Here's a bar chart representing the OPS, which is made of the addition between on-base percentage and slugging. This is pretty significant for batting statistics, because a OPS over 1 is basically saying that that player is getting on base consistently every single game with power hitting. And as we can see here, Mike Trout and Alex Bregman were performing very well during the 2019 season. Moving on to the next graph, we made a scatter plot which compared each pitcher on the roster to each other by using their ERA and WHIP. The ERA, obviously the earned run average, and the WHIP, which is the walks plus hits over innings pitched. This is pretty important because it shows how many runs a pitcher will allow in a game, in addition to the walks and hits that they're allowing during the amount of time that they're pitching for those games. So as we can see here, Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, and Ryan Presley were performing at a pretty high level during 2019. Next, moving on to the 2019 National League All-Star team, doing a very similar style of work. We're able to find the team averages for this team. So team batting average 298, the on-base percentage 377, slugging 575, and the average number of home runs that year was 37, and their pitching ERA at about a 2.77. Again, we were able to map exactly where each player is from. So here, majority of them coming from the United States, from South America and the islands. Next, here's our official team roster, the starting lineup here, and all of the pitchers that were on the roster. Same as before, the on-base slugging percentage, on-base plus slugging percentage. As we can see here, Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich were performing at a very high level during this year. And lastly, the pitching ERA versus the WHIP scatter plot. So as we can see, our top three were Kirby Yates, Felipe Vasquez, excuse me, and Jacob deGrom. We decided to go with Jacob deGrom rather than Josh Hader, solely because even though he had a pretty low WHIP, his ERA we felt was pretty high during this season, and so we felt overall that Jacob deGrom was having a better season. We thought this was important because to divide it up into the two leagues, well, obviously because there's two teams, and the MLB is divided into two different teams or two different organizations, the American League and National League. Each organization has 15 teams, and those are divided into three different divisions. During the halfway point of the season, players that are performing at the highest level statistically are voted on by fans to who will represent during these games. And the winners get the highly coveted bragging rights and home field advantage for their league, for their side of the World Series. Next, moving on to the 2021 American League All-Star roster predictions.
All right, so for the 2021 American League All-Star roster predictions, we used the 2019 All-Star team statistics. As Cadet Zabesky just explained, all of those statistics that we just went over were used as a threshold or a validation for our 2021 prediction. So when we looked at the list we had made based off of the statistics on what previous years had looked for in players and used the current stats from the this past season, we took the stats from the middle of the season and incorporated that into our current statistics to solve for it, and then use the 2019 to validate that. My apologies, someone walked in. So as you can see, the statistics that we have for the 2021 American League season are very similar to the 2019 All-Star American League team. If you want to click back and forth through that, Besky, you can see this is our roster that we came up with on base, slugging, ERA, WHIP versus WHIP, same graphs. We made sure to keep them very similar so that they could be compared easily. And you'll notice that the more you look through it, the similarities continue to rise. And so for our 2021 pitchers, as Besky mentioned earlier, we have Garrett Cole, John Means, as well as Carlos Rodon. And then 2021 National League as well. So once again, very similar. Use the 2019 National League All-Star team as a validation for our 2021 prediction. The more you look at it, the more that you'll come to realize that the statistics that we've pulled are actually very similar. However, if you'll notice, some of the numbers are slightly off. For example, if you noticed in the 2019 season, the average number of home runs were in about the 30s, where here it's 5. And you might think that's extremely low. However, the season's data that we pulled for right now for our prediction is we're not even at the halfway mark through the season right now. So the data is not complete. This is an early prediction for the All-Star game postseason. So that's why you'll see some of the numbers be a little off. But as you can tell, the averages don't change that significantly throughout the season. So we're on the right track. This is our current roster for the National League. And as Cadet Zabesky clicks through, you can see have the same type of graphs for comparison. Jesse Winker here being above a 1 for his on-base slugging, which, as you mentioned earlier, is great. Here our pitchers being Jacob deGrom, as well as Brandon Woodruff and Wade Miley.
Ma'am, kind of as a conclusion, one thing that we felt was important to be made clear was that originally we were thinking oh, we would be able to take the 2019 stats and just predict who was going to be on the 2021 rosters. We felt that it was more beneficial to pull the entire league stats and group them by decision or by position, and taking the top performers for each position and throwing them on the roster. And then we were able to use the same calculations that we did. And because we were so close, we felt as if the 2019 statistics validated our work. One thing that is also good to note is that some of the differences as far as roster, like on pitching, we had to filter our data to make sure that they had at least 30 innings pitched. That way, so we were assuming that all of the pitchers that would be on the roster would be starters rather than relievers and closers. That way we could have the most amount of data for each player, as well as batting as well. We had to filter so that that way each batter had at least 90 at bats. That way we didn't have someone who only batted 2 times and got 2 hits and was batting, with 1,000 batting average. Ma'am, and to whoever else is watching, this concludes our brief.